Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be going through our Week 4 must-add IDP waiver wire pickups. Per usual, we're going to go through 5 players, and I'll start us off here. And this is a significant one, Joe, because of a injury, unfortunately, and injuries are just a part of fantasy football. But we heard about Nick Bosa, who now tore his ACL. So who's going to step up? Who's the next man up? The guy we're going to be talking about here is defensive end Bryce Huff of the San Francisco 49ers. Bryce Huff, had a good game against the Cardinals. He had 3 assisted tackles, 2 solo, a sack. Now this is back-to-back weeks that Bryce Huff has had a sack. And I think it's interesting to note that, remember, Bryce Huff came from the New York Jets, and he went ahead and went with the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe he signed a contract in free agency. And it really didn't turn out very well for him at all. So now he's in San Francisco, and he's reunited with Robert Saleh when Robert Saleh was the head coach of the New York Jets. And so now that familiarity with Robert Saleh and what he was able to really get the best out of Bryce Huff. Now he's with San Francisco, and I think Bryce Huff could be affected due to the fact that you don't have Nick Bosa on the opposite side. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of Michael Williams. But I think from what we've seen with Bryce Huff and how successful he's been in Saleh's defense, I think it makes a lot of sense, Joe, to go ahead and add Bryce Huff here. This is more of a deep wire episode. We're talking about some more deeper players here this episode, but I would say anywhere from like 2 to 5%.
Yeah, it probably makes sense. Like you said, he's got the opportunity in front of him with Nick Bosa, unfortunately, tearing the ACL there. But, like you said, back-to-back games of sacks. I do think, obviously, Michael Williams will be another guy that steps up. And defense, the 49ers defensive line's always been solid. So I feel like he should get still get some one-on-one opportunities there. And Bryce Huff, we've seen it where he has been able to get the sacks, like you said, kind of disappointment once he did go with the Jets, but he seems to have found his home and comfortable in San Fran and looking to make a difference there. All right, so our next player we're going to talk about is defensive end Dorance Armstrong of the Washington Commanders. Obviously, this guy is a guy that I've liked Steve for a while. Really liked him when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. Now getting an opportunity for additional playing time and snaps there in Washington. He's had a sack in every game thus far. So he got 3 sacks on the season, but in this past game against the Raiders, he also had 3 tackles solo, another 2 assisted, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit. Like I said, he's a guy that I've liked, seems to be coming in his own. He's got a really nice defensive front that with the Washington Commanders there as well. And, would like to see his playing time regulate there a little bit, but even with the limited playing time, he's been getting the sacks. I mean, week 1, he had 59%. Week 2, he had 75% of the snaps against the Packers, but this last week, only 59% of the snaps. So I'd like to see that, up in the 75 range, but if he's going to get you a sack every week, he's worth a look here.
Yeah, this is not a surprise. It's a guy that you always have been fond of. And it's another example of a player who has shown to be productive in the past, reuniting with the defensive coordinator, right? I mean, Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator in Dallas when Dorance Armstrong really came on the scene. He's now been reunited with Washington. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, I know it's funny because I know we talk about our teams a lot, and I had asked you, like, oh, would you want Dan Quinn to be your head coach? You're like, oh, I would never want Dan Quinn. I have no interest in him at all. But I'll tell you, it seems like his players just love playing for Dan Quinn. He just, I don't know. There's something about him. He just, the way his attitude, whatever. I don't know if your mindset's changed at all about him. But I don't know. He's a different type of head coach, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been a player's first head coach, I feel like, and his players do love him and love to play for him. I don't know. Just at the time, I just wanted the Broncos to get, an offensive-minded head coach, maybe a younger guy coming off of Vic Fangio. Just felt like going to Dan Quinn would have just been more of the same. So that had a lot to do with it, not so much Dan Quinn. Just it wasn't going to be an exciting hire for the Broncos at the time.
So next guy we're going to be talking about here is defensive tackle Byron Murphy of the Seattle Seahawks. All right, Joe, here's a guy that I think people can be pretty excited about. In Fantrax, he's only rostered in 31% of leagues. That seems kind of surprising to me. He's now entering into his second season. He's a guy who you and I were both pretty excited about, but we know that defensive tackles take a while to develop. One thing that we want to look for in an interior defensive lineman is that the player has that pass rush ability. Byron Murphy had it coming into the NFL. We didn't see it his first year. His first year was pretty disappointing, primarily just honestly, I think, due to playing time. But boy, he started to show up. This past weekend's the Saints, which was a blowout game. I don't even believe he played, a bunch of the snaps because of it. But he had a sack, 2 solos, 1 assisted, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hit. Prior week, he also had 1.5 sacks and 3 QB hits. He's definitely making his presence known here. And I think this is a type of player that we've seen enough now that a breakout is upon us here.
Yeah, it does seem like Byron Murphy is coming into his own here. Second year in that McDonald system as well. And I tell you what, the Seattle Seahawks defense right now is just absolutely flying around. They're being really aggressive. Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams up front is really a force. And, it's nice to see. We always knew that Byron Murphy had that sack upside, but it's nice to see that he's gotten 2.5 sacks thus far in the season as well here. Next guy we're going to be talking about is going to be linebacker Pete Werner of the New Orleans Saints. This was a guy here, Steve, I know had taken some flack from us as he had kind of been a disappointment, but seems to be coming into his own here, scoring very well in our Fantrax league, as he's been right around the 20-point mark every week here. But this week in particular, he had 7 solo tackles, 6 tackle assisted, a fumble recovery as well, scored 28 points in our league. He's currently rostered in 7% of sleeper leagues here. And he's a guy that's been, the Saints are another team that has just been flying around and playing really well on defense, and he's been a part of it. One thing to note, though, his snap percentage has gone down every single week thus far. Started off at 91% week 1, 89% week 2, and then this past week was his lowest, ironically, even though he had the most amount of tackles he's had thus far at 13.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't remember. I mean, the Brandon Staley defense. I mean, do we recall that linebackers were really did all that well? I don't think so. I feel like the Chargers linebackers have always been kind of a miss under Staley's defense. Since Harbaugh's come in, Deion Henley has just went to the moon. But before that, I mean, maybe Eric Kendricks was there. I think maybe I don't even know. I don't think maybe he was. I don't even remember. But I want to say that I just am surprised with Werner. It just goes to show some guys can just come out of nowhere. I mean, the Saints aren't good, so the defense is on the field a lot of the time. But he's a guy that people were really excited about. He's in his 5th year. He's now finally showing it. It's kind of a surprise, but hey, I'll take it. I think it's legitimate. I wouldn't spend crazy amount of FAAB on him, but I think he's definitely rosterable at this point.
Yeah, I think he's definitely rosterable, and maybe it was he just likes playing in the system, and him and Demario Davis are still there, and really flying around the ball there.
All right, so last guy we're going to be talking about here is cornerback Jourdan Lewis of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cornerback is typically the forgotten man, Joe, and this is the first time I think we've even talked about a corner, but I just think we have to talk about this guy. And, again, another example here, Jourdan Lewis has been in the league. This is his 8th season. And if you look at it, he really hasn't done all that much to say, like, okay, this is a guy you want to be starting week in and week out. But I'll tell you what, he has been on an absolute heater these first 3 weeks. He had an interception, 3 solo tackles, an assisted tackle, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections. He's had 2 interceptions on the year. When you look at Jourdan Lewis, it was an interesting decision by the Jaguars because they made him the highest paid nickel cornerback this past offseason. A player that maybe people would wonder, are the Jaguars just overpaying like they always do for free agents? But I was watching that game. I don't know if you were watching that game or not, Joe, but that was one of the games I had on. And I was like, who is number 2? He was all over the field making plays. I was extremely impressed. And in our league anyways, he is by far the best corner at this point. Now, interceptions is not a sticky stat. So unless he becomes a Trayvon Diggs situation where he's getting more and more picks, then you say, okay, wow, he's having like an unbelievable year. But he is a nickel corner, so he's closer to the ball. He's going to have more tackles. So at this point, I don't see why you wouldn't start him week in and week out at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's definitely not giving you a reason to not start him at this point. And Jourdan Lewis, I mean, he's always a guy that had a lot of talent coming out of Michigan. It's unfortunate the way, his NFL career unfolded. I thought he was going to do better with the Cowboys. He kind of up and down. He had some moments there, but maybe just that defensive scheme didn't work out for him. But Jaguars obviously brought him in for a reason, saw the scheme fit there at the nickel position. And, if we're going to talk about a corner, it better be, from the nickel position, like you mentioned, being closer to the ball, getting those tackles. And if he's going to keep getting interceptions, that's just going to be a bonus.
I feel like maybe I'm wrong about this, but I want to say the Jaguars defense is a little feisty. Like
they are.
Yeah, I think they're legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, their defense. I actually picked them up and played them in a team defense league, but I feel like the D line is playing a lot better, which is ultimately helping out the corners, where that was their weakest point. Other than being able to stop the run, thus far they've been holding up, and we'll see if they keep that up. But also surprised, thought maybe if we're going to talk about corners, thought maybe we talk about Isaiah Rodgers.
Yeah, he had a couple fumble returns. Did he play for Michigan too?
No, just okay. came over from Phillies, playing for the Vikings now. Had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I know what he did. But I felt like Jourdan was more interesting. Maybe I don't know, is he practice squad eligible? Maybe you might scoop him up, Joe.
Yeah, I have to take a look. I mean, if Rodgers is, yeah, probably should. I mean, Vikings defense, we know with Flores there, he's teaching him, he's looking to punch out the ball. He did it a couple of times in that game. He had an impressive game.
Oh boy, watch out for those who are listening in our league. You better, if you want him, you better go get him. So that does it for this episode. We went through our Week 4 must-add IDP waiver wire pickups. If you haven't done so already, check out our most recent episode. We did the same exercise, but for the offensive side of the ball, we talked about 5 players that we've got our eye on that we think you should go and get starting, as soon as you can, whenever your waivers run. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.